That's all recorded. Okay, we're gonna start.
It's your favorite podcast with three cis white guys.
What is up, saints and sinners? Welcome to Confessions of a DIY Musician.
They always saints and sinners.
I should have thought of something before, but I just figured those are the things that are confessing. Anyway,
Yeah, all right.
yeah, we are your hosts, Marina City. I am singer Ryan Argast. I am joined by drummer Eric Summers-Araya and guitar player Toter Brnijev.
What's good?
We are a completely independent artist, no manager, no booking agent, no label, none of those things. We do it ourselves, and we've been doing it for such a long time. A decade plus. And this show is all about talking to you as a fan of the band and all of the history about us and getting deeper in our lives. And if you're just a musician who just wants to learn more about how to be successful as an independent artist, this podcast is also for you. So sit back, relax, and hang out with us for the next 30 minutes or so while we talk about how you are sound checking wrong. Guys,
Ooh,
it is
yeah.
super, super good
Ooh, yeah.
to have you guys back today. We are in our
Thanks
rehearsal
for having
space
us.
again.
Yes, thanks for having
I'm
us.
so glad you guys can make it to Toter's dad's house.
I just want to say really quick. I had this. You're like, all right, we're a band with no manager, no booking agent, and I just had this image of Kristen Wiig and Bridesmaids going, "Help me, I'm poor."
Now, we have had those things, and we are going to talk about those in other episodes. But the idea of this is that we've been able to find success as a band in a lot of different avenues without truly putting ourselves down on a label and staying independent for the most part. DIY means do it yourself.
Yeah.
So these episodes are really kind of talking about those do it yourself moments that you can have without all the other people surrounded or all the other like team things that you need to have. I know it's really difficult to get signed, so this is how you can find success anyways. So we are in a rehearsal space right now. That is why we are in our winter coats, because it is cold. It is 40-something degrees today, and in the basement it could be colder. But today you're sound checking wrong, and I'm going to start it off with Toter, because literally right before we started recording this, he's like, I'm so glad we're doing this because I was sound checking wrong for a long time. So
Yeah.
for a past sound checker abuser,
Yeah.
how did you recover? What was going on back then?
Well, you know, I had to go to California to rehab for about 10 days.
Dark times.
Dark times. We don't have to open up that can of worms. But anyways, yeah. So personally, I have sound checked pretty badly before. So when I first joined the band, I didn't necessarily have any band etiquette. I didn't really know. I was a loose cannon, one might say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so for this example, we're gonna be talking about what we do on stage before the lights hit, before the fans get there. You know, pretty much during sound check. But pretty much what I do, I'd get up on stage, plug in my amp, plug in my guitar, plug in the cord. And I put that shit up to like 10. And then I just start noodling. You know,
What is noodling?
Noodling, you know, it's when you bring out the ramen and
I thought it was when like you catch catfish by hand. You know, you stick your hand in the holes. That's called noodling.
that's
you know
called
what I'm saying?
noodling. All right.
Yeah,
well,
that's new. There you go. Fun fact.
I didn't-
Like
Fun
a
fact.
Snapple.
But yeah, noodling is pretty much when you're senselessly playing whatever instrument you are with no regard of anyone around you, your surroundings, other people's earlobes, or not earlobes, eardrums, earlobes.
Eardrums. not their earlobes.
we'll go with eardrums for this one. But yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much
we'll
it
stick
is. Not only is it annoying, it's frustrating for everybody else around you. It's pretty much having a extremely loud neighbor that you can't control, and you just have to put up with it.
Everyone does this. Like
and- yeah.
literally almost every band.
Yeah.
Well, any band that we know, like, they're not going to be that great.
Yeah.
Are the
And-
ones that are up there.
It's a good signifier of like, all right, we haven't really like done this on a professional level very much.
Yeah.
It's to me like what noodling on stage represents.
It really is, and I, you know, I was a victim of that. I'll be honest. Right now, it wasn't
We
good.
all were.
I think it might have been Eric, where you kind of told me like, "Hey, dude, like, you know, chill." Or I don't know who wasn't it rehearsal or something like that. We were like, all right, when we go on stage, before we play, no noodling, because at least for me personally, it was like, I don't know. I love my instrument so much. I'm so passionate about it that I can play anywhere for a period amount of time, and I just wasn't aware that playing my instrument during sound check was like no bueno, you know.
Yeah.
Like
Well, it's like if we're being really honest with ourselves, like we have a certain level of narcissism to want to go up on stage and play our instruments in the first place.
Yep.
So you put us on stage, and then you
Yep.
give us our instrument, and we just want to go, all right, there's 5 people in the room, but I still just want to play all the cool shit that I know how to play.
I know.
Show off a
Yeah,
little bit.
you want to show
Very
off a
much
little
so.
bit. You know, the other bands are in the room trying to set up, and,
Yeah.
and you're like, dude, I bet that other guitarist is really good, but not as good as me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
watch this. And then just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Drummers, I feel like, do this all the time.
drummers
they sit back
are
there.
the worst.
And we're just like, dude, okay, you're good.
And nobody cares about a drum solo. I'm saying this as a drummer. Nobody cares.
And we try to get him to do drum solos all the time. And he's like, no, we've gotten a couple in our history, but man, we were pulling teeth.
I know they want me to do a drum solo, and I'm sitting here like, you want to put a bathroom break in the show? That's what you want to give the audience? Here's
no
your
drum
intermission.
solos. Does Guitar Center even do the drum off anymore, or do people get bored?
Because drum solos are.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, it's been gone for years. Sadly, R.I.P.
It's like official now.
Wow,
Huh?
that's crazy.
That is crazy.
But yeah,
anyways,
I
and
interrupted.
pretty much what I do different now is I plug in my amp, I plug in my guitar, I make sure that sound is coming out, and then I just kind of hang out, wait for everybody to set up, and Ryan and Eric set up, and then once we get the green light from the sound man, that is probably the first time you're gonna hear my guitar. And that's the biggest difference is that now, it's not a noodle competition anymore. I already know where my tone sounds like, because I feel like that's where it kind of came from in the past was, oh, I'm going to show everybody how cool my tone is as a guitar player, at least. Oh, listen to my fucking guitar, and it's like, dude, chill. You're going to have 45 minutes to fucking play, and everyone's going to fucking hear it eventually. So,
Also, pro tip: if you ever want to give a guitar player a compliment, say they have really nice tone, dude.
yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah.
it. That's all you have to say to a guitar player.
Yeah.
That guy the other
dude.
night had a really good tone.
Yeah, he had really good tone.
Dreamy
Yeah.
tone.
Yeah. We could do a whole episode on that as well.
Yeah, yeah, we could.
Yeah, but anyways.
But I think the thing is like, even now, like when we sound check and there's people in the room, I get so self-conscious, like, because I'm not like giving it full out, and I know that people are kind of like waiting for me to like, oh, what does this band got? And then we're just like, okay, here we go. And if you're sound checking, you're either the opener or you're the headliner. Mm-hmm. And so the headliner, the people that are like, let's see what this motherfucker got. He's headlining. And then if you're the opener, it's like, here we go. Here's the local opener or something like that. And then
if you're lucky, you'll get a sound check in the middle. But.
Yeah. But I think why I bring that up is that now, like you said, back in the day, I didn't often play guitar back in the day with stuff. So I've always been a singer. So either way, when I barely sing when I do sound check. I'm just like, I'm singing high, I'm singing low. I'm like, check that microphone. And all those kind of just like, I talk to the sound guy, but the only time that I ever talk in the microphone is when the sound person says, hey, I need to hear your mic. Because the idea is that if you're playing guitar, and back in the day, if a bass player is playing bass, and the keyboard's playing keyboards, and the drummer's doing something like, sound guy's trying to get your attention and be like, yo, like I need this next person, but you can't hear me because this person is just noodling.
Yeah. No, I think that the most important thing is recognizing what sound check is for. Like it has a purpose.
Right.
It's not just for the sound guy. It's for you too.
Yeah.
So like at the end of the day, the sound check is there to make sure that you sound good. So rule number 1 is always follow the sound guy's lead. Like, do not do anything unless the sound guy tells you to do so, right?
Yeah.
So if he has not told you, hey, give me kick drum, then don't play the kick drum.
Yeah.
And also, drummers, if he says, give me kick drum, don't play anything else other than the kick drum.
Yeah.
And, like, also for drummers, when you get these like individual drum sound checks, it's not your moment to show off. That is, he's checking frequencies, he's checking tones. This is also your bandmates' turn to figure out what they need in their monitors. Yeah. So if you're not the one sound checking, then you should have a finger in the sky saying, I want more kick drum in my wedge. and then the sound guy will see that and he will dial in your wedge.
Yeah.
And that
So
finger
that
is
way-
usually the pointer finger
Yes,
is going
yes,
up.
yeah,
and then
yeah.
when you're good,
It could be your
it's-
thumb.
yeah, it could be the thumb, but usually that's when they also know that you're good. You're like, I don't need any more.
Yeah, I would say I try. This is just like
Or do the
a random tip is like I give the okay signal, or you could do like the fist kind of
yeah.
halt thing to tell a sound guy that you're good on your levels.
Yeah.
That's a good one because sometimes thumb can be misconstrued as like I need more.
Yeah.
But yeah, so point being is when other people are sound checking, that's your time to dial in your monitors. Don't go through the entire sound check, have everyone play and you're on your phone, and then at the end go, can I get this in my monitor?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
kill all the birds with one stone, and as everyone's sound checking, ask for that instrument in your monitor if you need it. If you don't need it, don't do anything. But that efficiency will get you through a sound check really easily, really quickly. The sound guy will love you, and then you will sound better.
Yeah.
You know, it also, to me, like whenever I see a band do a really quick, efficient, easy sound check, I know I'm going to be in for a treat.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
rarely have I ever seen a chaotic sound check and then the band sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you kind of want to hold that. You want to hold your cards in your hand before you perform to really get people to be like, oh wow, I didn't know that was coming. And I think that the people that are most efficient in the sound check makes the most sense. When you're doing sound check and he goes, or she says, hit the bass drum, you're just going boom, boom, boom. All right, now snare, pop, pop, pop. We're not doing different kind of solos on it.
Yeah.
You're just getting it so they can get it dialed in. And the same thing with guitar. They'll be like, hey, play something. You end up playing a riff. And you'll say, hey, I have a clean patch, I have maybe a medium patch, and I have a heavy patch, and I want to hear all three of them and how that's going to look. Because all three patches, and when we say patches, are going to be different sounds throughout the set that you want to make sure the levels are great. And oftentimes what happens is like, either the clean is way louder than the heavy tone or vice versa. And you want to make sure that all three are dialed in exactly the right way.
Yeah.
And you even say, I have a solo patch that I want to do. And that's the moment that you do a little bit of a solo just to kind of feel that out to see what's going on. But you're not soloing until then.
You want to make sure the sound guy hears what patches you have, just because he wants to have the best idea of what your sound is before we actually play. And one way of doing that is dialing in your patches at home. So they're kind of similar levels. Like Ryan was saying, you don't want your clean to be overpowering the distortion or vice versa. You want to make sure that when you're switching from patch to patch on a song, you want to make sure that it's seamless. You want to make sure that that transition is seamless. And part of that is the sound guy's job. But also, I think it starts with going home. Like, I have a Kemper. So when we say patches, it is literally certain sounds that I have created at home, and sometimes a song maybe needs like 4 different patches. You know, you have clean, distortion, whatever, solo. But my point is, you want to get everything down to a pretty good level so there's no peaks or gains when you're switching between patches, because the crowd is going to eventually hear that. And now I have a question for you. Is when the sound guy asks you, hey, do the snare, is there a difference in the intervals between your snare hits? Like, right? It would have to be like snare, and you would be like 1, 2, 3, as opposed to like doing like a roll or something, you know?
So that's a great question. So I always think about it very similar to like if you're in a recording studio and they record samples, which is something that they'll do for drummers a lot. They'll ask you to like, okay, hit your snare drum. And usually you hit it once and then you wait until all the resonating frequencies are done and then you'll hit it again. Doing it on stage is sort of like a way less dramatic version of that, at least the way that I view it, where it's just like I kind of hit it about here.
Yeah.
Where a snare drum or drums in general are going to decay really quickly. So there's not a lot of like ringing out.
No tail.
So it's really about kind of figuring out, all right, how do I need to dial in this impact? What frequencies do I need to EQ out? If you just give them a bunch of different notes, you know, you're playing super fast. That probably ruined Ryan's microphone. Sorry, listeners. But yeah, if you're playing like a lot of notes really fast, that's gonna kind of that's gonna affect how the engineer dials in like the initial attack of the hit. So you like, especially when you're doing toms, really let them ring out.
Yeah.
Doom, you know,
Right.
all the way until the end. Make sure that you're not just giving them a bunch of chaos that they go, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
You know?
No, yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to stop right here to talk a little bit about our sponsors for this episode. And our sponsors are marinacityband.com. Who would have known? Go get merchandise at thecrush.marinacityband.com. At marinacityband.com, you can see our merchandise, where we're touring next, music videos, playing the simulation game, all these different things that you can get at marinacityband.com. We have also a Discord that we encourage you to join. It has a wonderful community on there with a bunch of people from all across the world that not only talks about Marina City, but it talks about different things that are happening in their lives. We have a channel that's called the Feeling Better channel, which that specifically, if you want to gloat about your accomplishments and stuff like that and want people to feel good about you, go post something there. There's a vent channel in there. If you want to talk about some hardships that's going on that you feel that you need to confess. We even have a pets pics channel, so you can definitely gloat. No cat. Boots and cats. But dogs mostly. There's things. So definitely join our Discord. You can get those Discord links at our bio links in Instagram, TikTok, and also the same thing at marinacityband.com. And lastly, if you're a texter, if you're on the phone, do text us at 815-406-6209. That's 815-406-6209. And we always text back. This is how we're telling people about our shows before anybody else. It's a lot of cool things there. So definitely make sure that you join those things and have some fun with us. Keep being connected to the Marina City world. So going back to sound checking, I
Hopefully
do want
you
to
guys
talk.
enjoyed that background music.
Yes.
Yeah. That's so you know, like, all right, if I hit this skip 30 seconds, then no, I'm just kidding. Don't skip 30 seconds.
No, listen
to our sponsors.
So back to sound checking. I think the same thing how you sound check with guitar in different patches, a singer should do the same thing. So as a singer, I will do multiple different things in a sound check. I'll be like, hey, whoa, hey, like really loud. I'll go really low. Da, 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 da. I'll even sing some falsetto. And then I'll also do just talking. Talk, the check, and all those kind of things. And I think that if you do all those different patches of your voice, the sound person can really understand how loud you're going to get, how quiet you're going to get, or what your tone of voice is going to get. I've worked really hard to make sure that I have a large, I can sing low and sing high and a large range. And I want to make sure that when I do sing high in these songs, it's not super peaking. And when I sing low, I want to make sure that the audience can still hear it. So I oftentimes like to do that too.
Yeah. And it also, like, every room responds differently. And
Yes.
every microphone responds differently. So by showing all of that different range, it gives the sound person enough time to, like, dial in, these, like, super high frequencies are giving me some feedback, so let me hear some more highs.
Right.
Or the lows are giving some feedback, let me hear some more lows.
I assume that's like a really important part of the vocal check. It's because you're such a dynamic, your voice, and just for any singer, you have such dynamics. Whereas guitar, it's kind of like, you got your patches set up. But how important is that to show the sound guy, hey, sometimes, I sing like this, and sometimes I'm all the way up here, you know?
Every time. I mean, that's like, sometimes it's kind of goofy and kind of fun, but like, I'm literally going, hey, whoa, what? And I'll shout, because I will get loud.
Right.
And I want to make sure that they are not peaking for them. They can hear it. And then I'll sing the little bit, these days when I cry, I know you just let your phone ring.
Right.
I'll do all those different things. For them to understand where my vocals are going to be. And the other thing too is like, tell the sound person what you kind of want too. So like, because there's three of us and we're a fake band that uses tracks, and they do background vocals too, Toter and Eric, but we also have vocal tracks there for many reasons, not only so that they can feel strongly about singing with it, but also just to give more depth to the music. The dynamics can be bigger. And we can have a whole debate on whether that's good or not. But for us, that's what we do. So get over it. And I'll tell the sound person, like, hey, I want my I want the vocal tracks like just underneath my vocals and just above their vocals. And I feel like that's a pretty good blend between. So when you are sound checking, let them know like, hey, these vocalists need to be down a little bit, or like if we had another guitar player at the time, like this will be the lead guitar player. So make sure that this lead guitar player has the certain peaks for it, where the rhythm guitar player is going to be basically here the entire time, and so on and so forth. Because you guys know your band better than the sound person. They're just going to take it in an objective view. And top of that, the one thing about sound checking is that they've only heard you in the moment that you sound checked.
Mm-hmm.
In those moments that you were hitting those snares, and the moments that you played like a half a song before that, that's the only song that they know from you. So just make sure that you can show off your dynamics in all your sound checking. And I really want to talk about, unless you have something real quick here, but I really want to talk about what you give this sound person before we get to the studio, and when we get to the, before we get to the venue, and when we do get to the venue.
Yes. And I think this ties into something I was going to interject with, is the sort of trope that we as musicians have, is that sound guys are a huge pain in the ass. They're hard to work with. You know, they got a really bad attitude or whatever. And what we've started to realize in recent years through touring and seeing a variety of different bands that they have to work with is that job is really hard.
Yeah.
And really not fun for probably 80% of it.
And
Like,
thankless.
yeah, and thankless. Yeah. So first of all, like something that we haven't talked about yet is learn your sound person's name, introduce
Yes.
yourself, say thank you before and after you play, even if they did a terrible job.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tell them that they did awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't need to be on stage yelling at the sound person, and you certainly don't need to be yelling at them after the show. Just be a cool person to work with, because they go through a lot of crap.
Yeah.
Which I think lends them to sometimes have a bad attitude sometimes.
Yeah.
So, you know, don't make your sound person, your local sound person, turn to the dark side. But these are just some little details that are going to make your life easier and their life easier, which will make the show go smoother and everybody walks away happy.
Yay.
And one of those big things that Ryan was hinting at or alluding to is having a stage plot and input list. What is a stage plot and input list? It's basically, it's a piece of paper that has everything that you are going to be having on stage. So a stage plot is literally like a picture of what your stage setup looks like.
It's like a bird's eye view
Yeah,
diagram.
bird's eye view diagram.
Yeah.
So it'll have like, okay, we have a drummer, we have a guitar player, and then we have a vocalist, and we all three have microphones, and then, you know, whatever your band looks like, know how to say, all right, we need 3 vocals across the front, and then we have a bass and guitar, drums, that's it. Whatever. Right. You know, whatever your setup is, know how to articulate that, or better yet, have a stage plot depicting that, you know, for example, that stage right is the right side of the stage facing the audience.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So if your audience perspective looking at the stage right is on the left side. So we can talk about, you know, like it's sort of like a starboard port side on a ship. It always has the same frame of reference,
right.
You know, all these little details. Input list is a little bit different than the stage plot. That's going to be what is going to be mic'd up, what you're sending to the front of house, the sound person. So like, for example, our input list is going to be all the drums, all the microphones, for the vocals. We're sending guitar. We're sending 4 different lines of tracks to them. So that's essentially our input list. But all of this, there's really good tools. If you just Google stage plot input list, there's some really good references. You can go on Reddit. There's some great breakdowns on Reddit. You can DM us.
Yeah.
I will nerd out with you all day on what a good stage plot and input list looks like. But it's one of those things where if you show up to a gig, sound guys, especially at a D.I.Y. level, aren't expecting it. And when you show up with one, they are so happy.
Yeah.
They can immediately expect to have a good night and that you guys will be cool and you won't be the problem band on the bill. Hopefully there's not a problem band on the bill. But if there is, hopefully it won't be you.
And something that's extremely imperative, make sure that your input list matches your XLRs coming out. Because if you have things that are switched up, if your drum line is actually your vocal line, and then you got your front of house guy plugging it in, thinking that it's a vocal line, but it's a drum line, well, during sound check, he's going to be looking like confused.
Yeah.
Make sure it's
And that-
up to date. That's a mistake that we've made once or twice.
Yes. And it's
so-
absolute hell. The soundtrack gets extended by at least 15, 20 minutes.
Yes.
You know, that goes into
That feels
doors
like an hour.
time. You know, it's just make sure you double check that.
Yeah. Yeah. A nice little pro tip is to put a date on top of your stage plot and input list so that you know when it's like the most recent update. They can look and go, oh, this is from earlier this year. This has got to be the right one.
Yeah, I think also we try to send it when we advance a show, which could be a whole nother episode on what that is. But just really quickly, I'll send an email to the booking agent, to the venue owner, and say, hey, with the band that's coming in this on this date, we just want to know what time load-in is, sound check. Who's going to be settling us with money later? Is there going to be food that's going to be provided? All that kind of jazz. And one of the things would be like, and here's our stage plot and input list. Can you send this to the sound person? I don't think oftentimes they do it, but once in a while they'll do it. That's why we still have printed out sheets for them when we show up to the venue. And it's like, hey, again, this is what you're going to expect from us. This is how many channels we're going to need. This is what our stage is going to look like when we perform. And then on top of that, it also has our names of the, like Toter plays guitar, Eric plays drums, I'm singing. And also our numbers in case like they need to reach us for whatever reason. We leave for the green room and they're like, oh my God, something's wrong on the stage. I need to get a hold of them. Whatever the case is, they have that contact on that sheet for us. Luckily, they haven't had to use it. We try to stick around with the venue up until it's time to go.
Yeah.
But that's basically it. So I know we wanted to have also an episode about stage etiquette, but we are running out of time here. And I think that we can save that for another episode. But in this episode, are there any last words or advice or anything about sound checking that you feel that we need to make sure that we say before we wrap it up here?
Say just follow directions, be easy to work with.
Yeah. Show up on load-in time.
Yeah. Just be cool people.
Just communicate with your sound guy.
Communicate
Make
with your
sure
sound
you're transparent with him.
Play only when asked.
Play only when
play
asked.
only when
and,
asked.
and
Stress that
very
enough.
simple. And honestly, one thing that we didn't talk about, Toter will often play the same exact thing every single sound check. And I will basically do the same exact thing, and so will you. And that is not only for the sound person, but all of us individually, as when we're sound checking and our band members, to know if things sound weird or off. If you're constantly playing something new and something different every single time we're on tour, then we're like, oh wait, but it didn't sound like that in my ears last time.
Yeah.
And it's fun to
consistency
switch it
there.
up and stuff like that, but switching up every single show, keep it consistent, or a few of them that you're doing. Mostly if you come early and you hear our sound check, it's most likely going to hear some new song that Toter and I and Eric are writing, and Toter's kind of riffing on it in his sound check. That's usually what happens. So, all right, guys, that concludes our episode of Why You Are Soundtracking Wrong. Thank you so much for listening. You could be listening to any kind of podcast at this moment, but you decided I'm going to listen to Confessions of a D.I.Y. Musician with Ryan, Eric, and Toter, and that means the world to us. So thank you so much for hanging out. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you guys go on our Discord. Text us. Don't be a stranger. We're always on our social media. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Toodles.
Bye-bye.